Namaste, Caleb. Welcome to the Athlete's Yoga. I designed this series of poses for you to stretch your adductors, your inner thighs, and to strengthen your outer hips, your abductors. But what you really want is you want harmony and balance between the two of them to achieve ideal range of motion, ideal strength, and ideal flexibility. So here we go. So from your low lunge, you step back into your downward dog. Set up the bandhas again, find the breath again, find your pose again. Bring your big toes together, lift that right leg high, get some length, bend your knee. This time bring your knee in toward your nose, rounding your spine, drawing navel towards spine, lifting that right heel toward your right glute and nose to knee. We'll take fallen triangle. You take that right leg out toward the left, so you're on the knife edge of the right foot, and you slowly begin to press the glutes toward the back of the room so that they're even. Take a few deep breaths here. From here, we'll transition into gate pose. So you're just dropping that right knee down to the center of your mat. Take your right foot to the outside of your mat and bring the majority of the weight into your right palm. Raise your left arm high, reach. So you're lifting up and away from your mat. You bring so much weight into that right palm that you can easily lift the left leg away from the floor, pointing the toes. So now we're strengthening that outer hip. Now guide the toes down at an angle toward the floor. Drop the toes toward the floor and lift back up. Drop the toes and lift back up. One more. Tap the toes, lift that leg high, squeeze the glutes strong, and now bend that left elbow, reach for the top of the left foot, and slowly begin to not only press the shin toward the back of the room, but also lift the knee away from the floor, open up the chest, open up the heart. Take a few breaths here. And then to release, release gently with control and settle back into your child's pose. From child's pose, come into your downward dog, lift the hips high, pause for a breath, find those bandhas again, rise high onto your toes, bend your knees and hop forward. Use the bandhas to land nice and soft, and then come into a squat. Take your feet so they're diagonally out to the sides of the room. Hands come to heart center. The key will be to keep the heels flat to the floor, press the palms together, nudge the knees toward the back of the room, but also to lift the chest. So ideally you want your shoulders to stack above your hips. Try to get your sacrum, your lower spine, to be drawn down toward the floor, to lift your heart and open those groins. So you can pause here for 3 or 4 breaths, or as long as you'd like. From here we can transition into what we call Kundalini frogs. So you release your palms so they're flat to the floor. Begin to lift the hips and straighten out the legs. Parallel the feet more and toward one another. As you inhale, rise high onto your fingertips. As you exhale, bend your knees. Press your glutes toward the back of the room. Pull your heart forward so your back is nice and long. As you inhale, straighten your legs. Keep your palms pressed to the floor. Allow your head to relax and soften. And then as you inhale, bend those knees. Come back into your squat. So you can do a series of maybe 10 of these. Inhaling as you lift. Allow the back to be long, the legs to straighten, and the hips to lift. As you exhale, bend the knees. Pause back in your squat. Always trying to keep the heels flat to the floor. Inhale, lift. And exhale. Okay, from Kundalini Frog, we'll begin to lift the hips, straighten out the legs, heel-toe the feet apart. We're taking a standing straddle. So bring the majority of the weight into your toes, lift right out of your heels. Rise high onto your fingertips, keep that nice long spine, begin to bend into your right knee. While we're on this side, squeeze your left quad strong and press into the outer edge of your left foot. So you're breathing into opening mainly in that right groin. And to safely open, we want to strengthen as well as stretch. So to safely open and safely stretch, have a slight little contraction going on with that right groin, actually with both of your groins at the same time, but mainly we're focusing on that right groin. You're always drawing the navel toward the spine to protect your back. So you're strengthening and you're stretching and you're breathing into opening. The stretch, the pose itself, will allow for the stretching. The contraction will give you more strength. Take one more deep breath and then just crawl, but keep the hips low. Crawl your hands over so you're stacking your shoulders above your wrists. And now we're squeezing the right quad strong, pressing into the outer edge of the right foot. And we've got that left groin engaged. So you can go back and forth at your own pace. times as you feel comfortable. We can enhance this by bringing your hands to your waist, crawling back and forth, keeping the hips as low as you can. You can enhance this further by extending the arms out in front of you. Squeeze those biceps in toward your ears and just go back and forth, nice and slow. A skill that every athlete should have is hinging from the hips. So start here on a squat, lifting the chest, shoulders above the hips, feet flat to the floor, chest glued to the thighs. As you inhale, slowly begin to lift the hips. Get a nice stretch through your hamstrings. Maybe this is all your hamstrings will allow, and that's fine. Chest is still attached. If you can lift the hips even higher and lengthen the hamstrings, go ahead and do so. Let the head and neck relax. Chest still glued to the thighs, and come back down. We can enhance this as well. Take the arms out in front of you. As you inhale, raise the arms up, lift them up and maybe over the head. As you exhale, come back down. So this will also strengthen and tone your shins, prevent shin splints. It also strengthens your ankles. It also helps with balance. Obviously also stretching your hamstrings and a nice shoulder rinse as well. Take one more as you inhale, and then hinge as you exhale. Balance poses that will help strengthen your ankles, but also your hips and your groins. So we'll start with tree pose. Bring all the weight into your left foot. Squeeze that left leg strong. Engage the left glute. Manually lift the sole of the right foot up above the knee. Gently press the knee toward the back of the room, and there's this gentle pressure of the foot into the inner thigh and vice versa. Also, you're spinning your toes toward the back of the room and your heel forward. So try and open up here. Remember those bandhas, shoulders over hips. So this would be your tree pose. You can get creative with the arms. You can interlace your fingers behind your back and open up the chest. Pull the hands away from the back. Pause here. Okay, from tree, raise the arms up above the head and draw that right knee in toward your chest. So lift it high, begin to flex that right foot. We'll strengthen now the hip flexors. So what you want is you want the shoulders to stay above the hips. You want the back to be as if you're leaning against the back wall. Extend the leg forward and bend, all with control. Extend and bend. So what you want to look for is if you're leaning forward or leaning back. You want just the opposite. You just want to lift up tall and extend and bend. As you inhale, you can extend. As you exhale, you can bend. If you can't balance on that leg, then you can always come to a wall. Press the whole spine in toward the wall. Raise the arms up. Even take cactus arms and do the same thing. So try and press through the heel, flex those toes. Nice and slow. So now we'll do some poses sitting on the floor. The first one is called butterfly. So you lift up tall, you make sure you're on your sits bones. Your sits bones are the bones right in your rear end. You've got this gentle press of the soles of the feet in toward one another, firing up the groins. That alone will strengthen your groins. Of course, it's opening just by nature of the posture. You can exhale and draw the knees in toward the center. Inhale and open them up. Do 3 of those. Exhale. Inhale. Maybe one more, exhale, and inhale. If this is really uncomfortable for you, this is where you want to use blocks, or you can use a blanket, anything to lift your hips. So if that bothers your hips in any way, just lift. So you can try it this way. Sit up nice and tall, exhale, and inhale. And of course you can always lower the level, come down to one block. So you end up getting very creative. Exhale, and inhale, and do as many as you'd like. From here, we can come to, we used to call it Indian style, crossing the right ankle over the left. So you want to lift up tall, make sure you land on those sits bones. Take your hands to your knees, lift and lengthen your spine. Dig in with your sits bones so that you can lengthen your back. You want to feel the length in your lower back. So lean as far forward as you can. From here, you can take your arms out in front of you, and eventually begin to bend at the elbows. You can also round the spine eventually. Once you have that length in your spine, then begin to round. Perhaps you can stack one fist over the other, or you can use those blocks and rest your forehead on the block. Here we'll come onto our backs, raise the legs high, we'll come into a straddle on the floor. Press your whole back in toward the floor, flex your feet toward your head, and take your legs nice and wide. You can take your arms out into cactus arms if that helps. And then draw the legs in and widen. So you're resisting. You've got those bandhas engaged, and you're working the adductors and the abductors. You can bring your toes in toward one another, and then take the toes apart. Toes in, toes out. Do a series of those. Squeeze your knees in toward one another. We'll come into happy baby, so bend the knees, reach for the insteps of the feet. Take the knees nice and wide to the outsides of the torso. And then the soles of the foot now are parallel with the ceiling. You've got this resistance. You're pressing down with the strength of your hands, but your feet are trying to press up toward the ceiling, and this fires up the groins. While you're here, tuck your chin slightly in toward your chest to lengthen your cervical spine, and take your sacrum, your lower spine, and your whole back, and press it in toward the floor. You can gently rock from right to left. This is a true happy baby. Or you can take a half happy baby and extend, say, that left leg out in front of you, pressing your right knee down toward the floor, and breathe, and just isolate sides, and of course switch. From here, we'll take Supta Baddha Konasana, soles of the feet together, gently press the back in toward the floor. If this bothers you in any way, or if you find that you arch your back, take your blocks and rest your knees on your blocks. You can take your fingers, interlace them, press them up toward the ceiling, raise them behind your head, press back in toward the floor, and the same thing with the contraction of the groins. Contract by pressing the soles of the feet together, and release. So it's just a gentle contraction and a release. Contract. Okay, from here, bring your knees in toward one another. Cross that right leg up and over, nice and tight. And begin to separate the feet as far apart from one another. Be sure your whole back is pressed in toward the floor. Reach for the outsides of the feet. Begin to lift them away from the body, nice and wide. And then use the strength of your arms to guide them down toward the shoulders. So you're getting a nice stretch through your IT band and your glutes. Let the shoulders relax down toward the floor and breathe. This is a very intense stretch. So you'll have to breathe your way through it. Okay. From here, we'll take reclined half pigeon. Cross that right ankle up and over your left knee. And reach in between your legs with your right hand to pull your left thigh in toward your chest and gently nudge that right knee forward. You can gently rock from right to left, keeping that right foot flexed will protect your right knee. And now begin to slowly straighten out the left leg. We'll get a nice stretch through the hamstrings. You can guide it down toward your chest. Breathe. Now bend the knee and rest the sole of that right foot on the floor. Just drop it off to the left. Gently take your left hand and press your right knee forward. Take your right arm out toward the right and take your gaze over your right shoulder. Okay. Okay, sitting up nice and tall, cross that right ankle up and over your left knee. Flex both of your feet. Gently guide your knee toward the back of the room and your foot, your heel toward the back of the room. So lift up and lengthen. Press those sits bones into the floor so you feel the length in your lower back and slowly begin to lean forward. You should feel this in the outer right hip, that right glute, and that right IT band. You can enhance this stretch by reaching behind your left foot and gently guiding your chest toward your left leg. If you can't do that, you can always take a strap, wrap it behind your foot, and gently guide your chest closer toward your leg. As you do that, remember to press that right knee toward the back. From here, take that right knee at a 90-degree angle, lift up tall, sit on those sits bones, left foot is flexed. Inhale, lengthen, and gently guide the navel over your left leg, crawling your hands down your leg. You can also use a strap here behind the left foot. Let the nose go down toward the knee. Breathe. And then lift up. Maybe you grab that left big toe with your first two fingers and thumb, and take your right palm and press it into your lower back. Lift up and lengthen, and then gently begin to turn over toward the right. So you're looking up toward the right corner of the room. Press the balls of the left foot forward to lengthen the back of that left leg and torque your twist. Stop. Okay. From here, extend the legs out in front of you. Come onto your back. Separate your feet about the width of your mat. Let both of your knees drop over toward the right. You can bring the arms into cactus arms. This is a nice stretch for your left quad, a little bit on the right groin. And to enhance this stretch and to get into the right ankle, you can take that right foot and rest it at the hip crease. It intensifies the groin stretch, but it also intensifies the ankle stretch. Breathe. And then of course you'll want to do the other side. You can squeeze your knees in toward your chest. Bring your nose right up toward your knees. Separate the feet again. Drop the knees over toward the left. Look right. And then take on that left ankle and lift it up as high as you can toward the hip crease, onto that right quad. You can hang on to it, or you could use the strap here as well. Here we'll take our final stretch, frog pose. So pad your knees by bringing the edges of your mats in toward the center. Take your knees as far apart as possible. You're flexing your feet. And the alignment that you want is your knees to be in line with your ankles. Begin to press your glutes toward the back of the room. Come onto your forearms, come onto your elbows. Press those glutes back. You can stay right here, or you can walk your hands forward and rest your forehead down toward the floor. And you can hold this pose for as long as you'd like. Be sure you're safe. Be sure you're comfortable. Again, you've got that slight little contraction of the inner thighs to protect the stretch. Navel towards spine always. You can stack one fist over the other, or you could also rest your forehead on a block. Breathe and relax. Completion of your practice, you always want Shavasana. Shavasana is deep rest. You're on your back, your eyes are closed, your arms are down by your sides, palms facing up, toes out to the right and left. So you let go of the bandhas, you let go of the breathing, just your natural breath. And the only thing you need to do is to just focus on each one of your breaths. And we do Shavasana at the end to let the mind and the body absorb and process the practice. So you commit all that to muscle memory, and you also relax and you calm the central nervous system. So that when you leave your practice, you have this beautiful state of calm throughout your day, so that when you go into net and things get chaotic, the central nervous system, the more you practice, that central nervous system remains calm. So under chaos, under stress, you don't get rattled. So I hope this helps, Caleb. If you ever have any questions, please reach out to theathletesyoga.net. Namaste.